It is so good to see all of you here again. And to do this 7-day sitting together after so many months, it seems, of no sesshin. After carefully thinking it over, we have decided to try keeping a sesshin at 50 participants, so that maybe there will be some more dokusan time for each one of you. This sesshin, reaching into the Labor Day weekend, we've had some apprehensions about noise from increased traffic over the weekend and boating and whatever. So far, of course it isn't Labor Day yet, it's been astonishingly quiet. Even yesterday, people say on a Sunday there was hardly any noise from boating. But if there is a lot of noise, if this was the only week that we could get, and it did help some teachers out to attend the sesshin this year, there's a lot of noise and activity around one. Can oneself come to a deep silence in the midst of that? Which is the silence of not opposing, not objecting, not finding fault. The silence of no resistance. Just listening. Which is the quieting down of the self, of the me, which is this incessant agitation of wanting something or not wanting something. For those of you who have not been to a sesshin here, to this camp, and actually for all of us, we have decided some new things for the sesshin. First of all, let us mention again, there will be no prostrations or bowing either here in the zendo or in the dokusan room. There will be no clappers. As Kevin mentioned, there will be fewer bells, they will be rung less frequently, and there will be no chanting, and there will be no vows. I'll come back to the chanting and the vows in a little while, and first say something about another new way of going about a sesshin. If at any one time any one of you feels that he or she wishes to skip a sitting and rather go for a walk or sit someplace in the woods or wherever on the lake, it's quite all right to do that. There's one thing we would ask you to please follow conscientiously, and that is to leave a note with a ZA signing your name and telling us the time at which you'll be back. There is a busy highway here, there's a lake, and there are quite extended woods. And if you're not back at the time, we would have to start looking for you. So please let us act with great responsibility toward one another. When you return, please find out a way to enter during kinhin and not during a sitting, not open the door, see what's going on, also not looking from the porch, but to be unobtrusive about this in returning to the zendo during kinhin. If you don't feel like going out, don't think because other people may be doing it, you have to join. You don't have to join anything. You do what you need to do. Can one do this without being influenced by, of what other people do? After our first sesshin in the country, Most people were very elated over the country. It's the presence of the air, the water, the trees. And some people felt what they needed to do is in this Zen, though, the hell with the country. And let's work freely, not one person compare with what the other person needs to do. You need to lead your own life and take responsibility for it. And not depend on someone else to guide it for you. Is it possible? Can we do that? We have to see how much we do yearn for guidance and how much we are programmed by past guidance. Throughout all our life, we've been controlled and we've learned to control ourselves. Who is the controller? Some little man or woman sitting in the brain? Are we two? Or is it just free seeing, perceiving, and acting, which is one? To come back to the fact that there will be no chanting and no vows. After the first sesshin out here, someone wrote me in this vein, saying how nice the sesshin was and everything, but said one thing I did miss, and that was at the end of the day, reciting with everyone else the 4 vows. I really missed it. It used to give me a boost. It wasn't so much the words he wrote, not so much the words of the vows, but it did arouse a feeling of togetherness. Please let us ask ourselves whether a feeling of togetherness needs to be aroused by anything, or whether rather each one of us needs to see clearly and freely for herself and himself that we are not separate from each other. This is a fact, an undeniable, incontestable fact. Why can't we see it directly, immediately, meaning without any mediation whatsoever? And not only are we not separate and different from each other in this room that we happen to be in for 7 days, we're not separate from all human beings, from all humankind, throughout this entire globe. Can we see this? Come upon this fact, upon this truth directly, without any stimulant, so to say. Inspirational stimulant. If we arouse strong feelings and sentiments through a stimulant, there can never be completely free and clear and complete understanding. But there very possibly arises a dependency on the stimulant. So, this simple fact that none of us is a separate, isolated, individual entity. Can we see it? All of you is me, and I'm all of you. All share the same fears and hopes and anxieties and ambitions. And there's this human difficulty of human relationship all over the world. Not different from one country to the next, from one group to the next, from one individual to the next. It needs no communal activity of a special kind to reveal this. All it needs is dropping images of oneself and others, all images of oneself and others. So whenever old memories come up of past experiences, what is one to do? Is one going to revel in them or spin them out endlessly? Or can awareness bring them to an abrupt ending? We are full of yearnings, full of longings and desires, all of us, and full of fears and hopes. When we cannot spin them out any longer, think them out any further, can we face them directly? Immediately. This word immediately means no mediation, no escape into memory or sentimentality or into whatever. Just facing directly. Fear as it arises, wanting as it arises. Becoming quiet in the presence of this. Presence of its arising, stirring, aching, paining, overflowing and ebbing away. What is this immediate facing? For those who work in who, the mu, the questioning, the who, right in the midst of whatever stirs one or seems to tear one apart. Mu, what is it? Who, what is it? Not escaping into memories or fantasies. You can do it, but then you're not facing. What you're not facing follows you. Wherever you go. So, whatever comes up, don't get caught up in the content of your thoughts. But rather, what's underneath it? And underneath it is either fearing or wanting. What is that? Nothing can aid you in facing that directly. Which means the emptying of all thoughts and images and ideas of the past, present or future, of oneself or others. Dying. This is dying. Without any expectation of success or failure. Just one vast not knowing, one vast questioning. What is it? Who? Not knowing the answer. Kevin and Stu have given most of the current guidelines, mention a few things that are very important. None of these are really rules. If they're just rules and you just follow them, it's a very meaningless and superficial affair. But can one see for oneself the meaning and significance of these things and find out for oneself? Then it helps. First thing always mentioned is silence. To keep silence wherever you are, whether it's in the bedrooms or in the kitchen, working inside or outside. There's no need to talk. It's really quite a miraculous thing to spend 7 days, 50 people together, keeping such a thing as a sesshin going without verbal communication. It's actually quite a relief and saves tremendous energies. Because we do need to communicate at times, and for that we have pencils and paper. If there's an emergency, you need to talk to somebody, then if possible take that person where you're not heard and seen by others. But silence doesn't just mean not talking. Can one move with a profound quietness, which means awareness. Awareness of this, the noise of the me, which always needs to hear itself, as though it needed to check on itself whether it's still existing. Sometimes the greater the fear of not existing, the more noise one has to make. This can all be discovered and seen, and in the seeing it evaporates. It then becomes so superfluous and gives way to a greater depth of working. So many things we do so inattentively, like closing a door. We may not know for the first 5 times how a door functions, and every time the bar claps down. But eventually one finds out, if one is interested and looks and observes how the door does function. Maybe one needs both hands, one around the knob and one on the bar. And then, wonder of wonders, the door almost closes without making any noise. And the noise that it does make naturally is no disturbance. And there's care. That care transmits itself to everyone. So whether you enter the zendo door or leave it, or enter a bathroom door, particularly after the formal sittings are over, when people who need to rest want to go to their bedrooms, very important how one walks up the stairs, thump, 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 or carefully. May go a little bit slower. But there's tremendous energy in this awareness of listening to the footsteps, to the creaking, without calling it footsteps. I have to do this here because we're communicating. But as you walk up, you don't need to talk. You need to listen. And then there'll be a quietness that is full of energy and intensity. Climbing up to your bed. Incidentally, if you find that I hope I'm saying something correctly, if you find that your mattress is sagging, there should be enough room for people to put the mattress down on the floor in the bedrooms. Or get a board. Ask for it, ask Kevin or Sue for a board. We don't want you to come out with a crumpled up back, a sore back. But if you do climb up, you don't need to bring the mattress down. Because there will be some noise, there will be some sounds of that. You can't avoid that. But you understand what is being talked about. And the person who sleeps underneath you, around you, will understand too the care that is expressed, that expresses itself and communicates itself in being considerate of other people. The next thing we always talk about is about keeping the eyes down, which particularly holds for walking in this room, in the zendo. If you want to see how it looks like, just take a good look sometime here this evening or tomorrow morning, and so that you don't need to look time and time again. And then keep the eyes down, about 3 feet in front of you as you're walking. No, fine, this is not necessary to give measures. Find a place, a posture for your eyes, half open, which is a posture of quietness for the brain. You may find out if you're very new at this, it is very difficult. When, before one knows it, one has looked around again because one wants to have security. The security of familiarity, of knowing things, seeing things that one knows and is familiar with. And yet this work, this practice, whatever you want to call it, zazen, is precisely plunging into not knowing, into unfamiliarity, into feelings of insecurity that this brings. So can the eyes stay down without then the eyeballs rolling left and right to at least look around on the ground, or left of the mat or right of the mat? That would be the same thing. That is sort of like following rules and yet finding a way out. This is not a rule. It's a way of working in which there is a possibility for an intense inner silence, or coming in touch with one's fears and insecurities, and this constant roving of the mind, always looking for something known. This fear of not knowing, which is the fear of no thinking, of thought just not being there to sustain one. Now if you're taking a walk, many people like to continue keeping their eyes down, even though they're outside. And do it. Do what you need to do. Yet there's no danger in the glance of your eyes falling on the light of on the lake, on a leaf, tree, or the sky. It all depends. Are you then trying to see something, want something again? And then to be in touch with that. What is this wanting? And putting the questioning right into that. There is nothing to see. Everything is there. Inside and out. Can it be just there as it is without our having to make it into anything? Without thinking about it or making a memory out of it. About meals, it is usually said that one should eat so much a portion of what one normally eats. Find out what you need to eat in order that you can do what you need to do here in the Zendo or during breaks. Incidentally, there is a lot of time during breaks also for taking walks. We have added a half hour after lunch. Well, you'll follow the schedule. There's a longer lunch break than we used to have, so those people who need to take a walk can do it, those who need to sit in the Zendo can do it, and those who need to take a rest can do it. So during mealtime, very important to be very aware of this whole process of eating, the greed that comes up, the lack of attention, because one only thinks of what else one is going to eat or what more one is going to eat. See it. That's what needs to happen for greed to evaporate. One has to see it. As one has one mouthful, chewing it, is there already the thought of the next mouthful and the hands stirring to pick it up? Or can one be completely with one chew, with one swallow? Nothing before, nothing in between or after, just that. It's a tremendous thing if this is possible to happen. each instant being complete, completely sufficient unto itself. Sesshin, as we usually point out at this time, is not an opportunity provided for fasting, because it takes a lot of energy to do this work, tremendous amount of energy. You may become faint if you don't eat what your body requires, and yet you may find that you don't need to come to a meal, so then don't. Don't follow blueprints and become aware of how much one has ideas about everything. They're so deeply lodged. We've heard so much since we've been tiny. What we need to eat or what we shouldn't eat. Can it just be eating? What is it? Without any ideas. Same goes for sleeping. Can one be free of all kinds of plans and strategies about how much one is going to sleep, or how much one is going to stay up with sesshin? Searching for inspiration from what one has heard of other people who have written or said how much they've stayed up. Can one be free and independent of that and do what needs to be done? If you're very tired, then there's nothing to be ashamed of to go to get rest, even if nobody's in the dorm, and to see how one is influenced and guided and programmed by one's images of what other people may think of one, how one wants to impress other people. Can that drop? It's not easy. It's so deeply ingrained, but at least can it be seen? And in this seeing, there's already a reversal. One is not under control of what one sees. Yet at times, even if one is tired, one may want to find out what this sleepiness is. Sit into it. Question the who or the mu, right in the midst of what one calls fatigue and drowsiness. What is it? And not trying to manipulate the state. Because the state is also the manipulator. They are not two. When we find that all of a sudden there is no tiredness. It's just energy, and one doesn't even know what time it is. Or one may find one gets more and more tired, so goes to bed. Can one do things without making a problem out of anything? Another thing we talk about, it's already been mentioned quite exhaustively by Stu and Kevin, is working with a Kyosaku. There too are an abundance of ideas. What this Kyosaku does for one, or doesn't do for one, or what it has done for others. What is it doing for my neighbor who seems to be getting hit so much more than I am? Why am I not hit as much as him or her? And this whole complex of ideas of being good or bad, fast horse or slow horse. Forget about horses. Fastness and slowness is just irrelevant. As it was said, we're working on this together. It's your work. Sometimes Kyosaku can be immensely helpful. But if one thinks, I'm being hit because I'm supposed to do something, I'm supposed to work better, then one is filled with thoughts which lock right into this whole program of needing to do something better or more, or reaching a goal, achieving something, attaining success. Whereas this work is, can this whole thing be short-circuited and just drop? Zazen and sesshin is not more of the same. It can be something entirely new and fresh and different. Leaving behind ideas of attainment and achievement and success and comparisons. And this constant pressure we put upon ourselves and others, and allow others to put upon ourselves. Can we become aware? So we're not under the power of all these programs which are there in every human being throughout this entire world since time immemorial. What is freedom from all that? Is it possible? You don't know. Can you work in this not knowing? Who? What is it? What is this mind? Whatever your practice is, your work is. Can it be the expression of not knowing? And in that meeting, everything that comes up, head on, right on, as we say. Face on. Not knowing the outcome. That's already freedom.